Welcome to the Antioch Podcast, designed to nurture knowledge, cultivate creativity, heal the heart, and strengthen for service. Thanks for listening, and welcome home.
So, today's message is called Medicine, Miracles, and Mercy. First, we're going to talk about medicine because I love medicine, right? And we're going to go to Luke 10:34, and this is an excerpt from the Good Samaritan. And it's going to come up. Let's see if I can beat you to it, Madison. Voila, look at that. Okay, he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. Now, this is referring to the Samaritan going to help the man that was tragically lying on the side of the road, right? And I want to highlight this because I'm not sure, there's some Christian circles that kind of shame and condemn medicine. I don't know, anybody ever felt that or seen, heard, experienced that? Okay, and it's kind of viewed as like non-spiritual. Like if you have a headache and you take an ibuprofen, that's non-spiritual. You should just pray for the headache, right? Well, I'm here to tell you today that Jesus heals through all sorts of modalities, right? Jesus absolutely heals through prayer, and he absolutely heals through ibuprofen, right? And I want to say this, Good Samaritan, Jesus is telling us this parable of this man to tell us and teach us, like, you need to be like him, right? We are to be like the Good Samaritan. And I think sometimes we can like over spiritualize everything. And maybe you can see someone that is like bleeding out and you could just walk by and be like, Jesus, heal them. And be like, I did my good deed, y'all. I was a good Christian. Like, no, go get a bandage. Like, come on, call 911. Let's get this going. And so I just want to highlight that Jesus is honoring that this man was choosing to help this man's wounds heal through oil and wine. And in biblical times, oil was considered a soothing balm that they used, which we still use today, right? And then wine was their access to an antiseptic. So next time you just split a cut, instead of that rubbing alcohol, just go get yourself a bottle of wine, rub it right on. Okay, next one, Proverbs 31:6. Let beer be for those who are perishing and wine for those who are in anguish. Have you ever read that verse before? That's a new one. Ladies and gentlemen, that's called hospice care. And I it's funny, but it's true. Did you know that hospice care is biblical? Right? That the Lord is not like, suck up your pain, deal with it. Right? You're less spiritual if you take an ibuprofen. Right? Now, of course, they didn't have ibuprofen then, so they had beer and wine. I prefer ibuprofen myself, maybe a little Tylenol, but okay, next one, 1 Timothy 5:23. Okay, so this is Paul giving Timothy advice, because Timothy, he's sick all the time. He's got a lot of GI upset, right? So this is Paul's advice, medical advice, okay? Stop drinking only water and use a little wine because of your stomach and your frequent illnesses. Y'all, that's Paul, that's not me. And maybe your version of wine is, I don't know, lisinopril, right? Name a medication. Because the Lord can heal through all sorts of modalities, right? Now, I recently went to a conference, and it was a healing conference for medical providers. And it rocked my world. I absolutely loved it. And one of the speakers was Dr. Carolyn Leaf. Anybody know Carolyn Leaf? She's a neuroscientist that is amazing, and talk to me later if you want to hear more about her work. But one thing that she talked about is we live in a world where we view it as like God's in this box and science is over here, right? And that's why this is medicine and this is faith. And she said it eloquently when she said, guys, it's two faces on the same coin, right? That God is on one side of the coin and science is on the other. Now, one thing I want to highlight today is the phrase, there's no such thing as a second-class healing. And what that means is that all of us, we want to be healed through prayer, right? 100%. If I never have to go to urgent care, if I never have to have a chest x-ray, that'd be amazing. Just every single time, pray for me, and then poof, I'm healed, right? But I'm not prideful enough to tell the Lord how he must heal me. Is there any story in the Bible where Jesus just healed everyone the same way every single time? No, there's blind men. Some blind men, he took some mud, rubbed it in his eyes. Other blind men, he spit in their eyes, right? There's every single person, he looked at them and he's like, how am I going to heal you? Right? And so there's no such thing as a second-class healing, meaning whatever way the Lord wants to heal you is a first-class healing. If he heals you through surgery, guess how he gets the glory in that? Who made the surgeon? Right? We know who made the surgeon. Okay. So now we're going to go into talking about some miracles. And a lot of the miracles we're going to talk about today are in the book of Luke. And I want to teach you a little bit about Luke. I'm not sure if you know much about him. Something that I find super fun fact about Luke is that he was a Gentile physician, meaning that he was not Jewish, right? And he was a Gentile physician from Antioch. How fun is that? That is really fun. And things that his gospel is known for is that he loved to focus on Jesus's compassion for the marginalized, and for women, and for the Gentiles. That Luke, being a Gentile himself, was fascinated with what? He healed an unclean woman? What? He touched that Gentile? And that the other fascinating thing about Luke is that Luke did not see these miracles himself, but his gospel was written because he interviewed eyewitnesses. And his gospel is known for being meticulous, that he was scientific, and that if he got a few eyewitnesses and he didn't feel like it lined up, he's like, get that story out of here. That he was a scientist and he did his research and his book was meticulous. Anyways, that was a nerd fact right there. Okay, so speaking of Luke, let's go to Luke 17:11 through 17. This is one of my favorites because it has so many facets to this story. Okay, now just so you know, if you guys follow along your Bibles, of course I encourage that, but you will have to be like a Bible ninja because I'm going to be everywhere. If you want to just sit back, relax, and look at the screen, you're welcome. Okay? Bible ninjas or screen users are all welcome. Okay, here we go. Now on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. They stood at a distance. How many men? And they called out in a loud voice, Jesus, Master, have pity on us. When he saw them, he said, go, show yourselves to the priests. And as they went, they were cleansed. Okay, pause for a second. Can you go back to the cleansed slide? Okay, so see that word cleansed? If you go back to the Greek, that word for cleanse means that they were physically healed. Okay, so all 10 of them were physically healed. Next. One of them, when he saw he was healed, he came back praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And look at this last sentence that was highlighted. And he was a Samaritan. Luke is wanting to highlight, he was the outcast. He was the marginalized. He was the unloved one. Keep going. Jesus asked, were not all 10 cleansed? Were not all 10 healed physically? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner? Then he said to him, rise and go. Your faith has made you well. Now this Samaritan, this word here, your faith has made you well, is the word sozo in the Greek. S-O-Z-O, which means saved, healed, and delivered. So yes, he was physically healed from leprosy, but his body, soul, and spirit were healed. Now, I think probably everyone in the room could say, maybe your body is in perfect condition, and I'm thrilled for you. But I pretty much say that probably everyone in the room has a soul wound that they could benefit from some sozo healing, right? So today, we're going to have some time at the end to be one of those lepers, to go to Jesus. And you get to choose. Are you going to be the one that was physically healed? Or are you going to be the one that's sozo healed? Now, what was the difference between the 9 and the 1? The difference was gratitude, right? The difference was humility. Recently, I have a black dog, very black dog, who ran out in the street so maybe like 9 o'clock at night, and it was raining. And I currently live in an Airbnb. That's a long story, but the cars raced down this hill that I'm living on, and right before my eyes, I accidentally let her out of the front door, and right before my eyes, there was a car racing down the hill, pitch black in the rain. They didn't see her. She's midnight black, and I hear it. I see it. I'm like, okay, well, that's our family's first intimate death. I'm like already processing how I'm going to help my children process the death of our dog. And this was the day after I came home from the Miracle Conference that I went to. And then the lady, the wife of, the husband was the driver, the wife is in the seat. She comes out and she's like screaming at me, cussing at me. Obviously, it's very unfortunate that my dog got out. But it was one of those where I was like, oh, Lord, what's going on inside of her? That her first response when she hits a living thing is to start cussing at me. And I just was like, I'm so sorry, ma'am. I understand this must be very hard for you. And as I'm getting ready to go pick up my dead dog on the street, I'm like, it must be very hard for you. And she's still screaming, cussing at me. And I go to pick up my dead dog, and my dog pops up out of the street and just runs into the house. And so then I get into the house, and Ben heard all the ruckus. He's like, what on earth happened? What was going on? Why was someone screaming at you? I'm like, well, I explained what happened. And so then I'm telling the girls and Ben, like, don't touch her. She probably has broken bones. Like, she's going to really struggle. And she's like, hey, I'm so happy. And I'm like, it's because she's in fight or flight right now. It's all of that adrenaline rushing through her body. But pretty soon it's going to hit her, and she's going to really struggle, right? Just running up and down the stairs, going and eating some dinner. And so then, we kind of was like, well, that was weird. And the Lord reminded me, he was like, you just witnessed a miracle before your eyes that I saw it. No one else saw it. I saw it. I heard it. I whacked it. I processed the emotion of her death, planned her funeral in my mind. And that I was almost one of those 9 lepers. We had things to do that night. I was like, okay, let's get in the car. We got to go. I was almost one of those 9 lepers. And the Lord said, hey, are you going to notice what I just did? I was like, oh, my Jesus, thank you. Thank you. I don't want to be that leper. I want to be this leper. Okay. Luke 18, 35 to 42, the blind beggar. As Jesus approached Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard the crowd going by, he asked, what was happening? They told him, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. Okay, pause. You just imagine just chilling on a street and be like, hey, what's the commotion? And someone's response is, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. Wow. Guys, that's our everyday. That's our everyday. Okay, keep going. He called out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Those who led the way rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped and ordered the man to be brought to him. When he came near, Jesus asked him, what do you want me to do for you? Lord, I want to see, he replied. Jesus said to him, receive your sight. Your faith has healed you. This is another sozo healing. And once again, Luke is highlighting a marginalized individual who they even basically said, like, dude, shut up. Right? Any of you ever feel like the world just wants you to shut up? And Jesus is highlighting, hey, come, bring him closer. I don't know about you. That's the Jesus I want to follow. You know, when I talked about that I met Brad 21 years ago, I had seen a lot of like hypocrisy in the Christian world. Anybody ever seen that? Oh, I'm alone again. Me and Madison. Right on. Okay, all of you have only seen picture perfect Christians that are kind and loving all the time. Once again, I'm thrilled for you. And I remember being in Brad's house and it was like, oh, like, you follow Jesus and you feel like him. Like when I'm around you, I can feel the loving kindness of the Lord. I want that Jesus. And one thing I want to say to the room today is I am sorry if you've ever been mistreated by a Christian who didn't represent Jesus well. Because there's a lot of people who leave the faith not because of Jesus, but because of the people who say they follow him. Right? The people who know the information of Jesus, but haven't let Jesus create formation in them. And so we're going to forgive people like that today. Because this is my Jesus, and this is your Jesus. And I want to make sure you meet this man. Because the next time you feel outcast and marginalized, not good enough, the Jesus is saying, hey, grab Jeremy, pull him to the front. Come on. Okay. Luke 8:43 to 48. This is the story of the bleeding woman. Once again, Luke is absolutely fascinated in the healings that Jesus did, specifically for the marginalized and for women. This woman who's been bleeding for, I forget how many years, is it 12 years, I think? In Jewish culture, that would be considered like very unclean, right? Just being on your period is unclean. Being on your period for 12 years, that's like triple unclean, right? And so as a Jewish man, he, being a clean man, definitely should not be touching her, right? And you would think if he was operating out of his cultural norms, if he knew that she touched him, he wouldn't want to announce it because that would also make him dirty, right? Okay, let's read this. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. By the way, when it says no one could heal her, the history of that is that she spent all of her money going to physicians trying to find healing. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. Okay, right here, this is the word that she was physically healed. Okay, keep going. Jesus knew that she touched him and that she was healed, right? He could have just been like, good for her. She got a piece of healing. I'm going to keep going on with my day, right? But he wants to make an announcement to the world. Who touched me? Do you guys know that Jesus was an artist of words and that he is an expert at asking quality questions? If you're around me for a short amount of time and you hear my mothering, I'm very passionate about my children asking quality questions. Like, don't ask me like, when are we going? When are we leaving? What's happening? I'm like, no. Change that into a quality question. Because Jesus asked quality questions, because quality questions can change your life. This is a quality question that's about to change this woman's life. Who touched me? Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, I love Peter. Peter's like, Jesus, you idiot. Peter said, Master. Okay, maybe he didn't say idiot, like, I don't know. Respectfully idiot. The people are crowding and pressing against you like, duh. Like, how would we possibly know who touched you? Keep going. But Jesus said, someone touched me, and I know that power has gone out from me. Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, she wanted to be unnoticed. Why? Because she's lathered in shame that was placed on her because of her brokenness, because of her sickness. She's lathered in shame. Like, let me just take my healing and hide. Anybody else want to hide? I love hiding. Put me in a cave. I feel so safe and warm. I love it. Oh. She wants to hide, but Jesus knows that physical healing is nice, but what she really needs is her soul to be healed. She needs to be freed from that shame. Okay, then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she's been instantly healed. Then he said to her, daughter, let's sit in that. He just met this woman. What's the most tender phrase you could call someone? Daughter. My father-in-law is here. And one thing that I've never said to you, so I'll tell it now, that I love about you is whenever he approaches, he has 4 sons. Whenever he approaches his sons in person, on the phone, or in a text message, he always says, my son, how are you? Because there's nothing more tender. There's an element when you call someone son, it's like, son, I'll die and serve you. What do you need? Son, I love you with all of my heart. He's saying to this woman, daughter, you just met me, but I love you with all of my heart. I have the heart of a father for you. I will feed you, protect you, take care of you. What will you not do for your children? Daughter, your faith has sozoed you. Your faith has saved, healed, and delivered you. Go in peace. And how much when you love your son or your daughter, you want peace for them. You want healing for them. And sometimes that means that you got to let Jesus notice you. You got to let Jesus say, "Hey, you, hiding behind that chair. I see you." So if you remember, the title is Medicine, Miracles, and Mercy. So we did medicine. I could be here for 10 hours doing miracles, but I tailored that. And now we're going into mercy. Okay. I went to Israel a long time ago. I don't know, 12 years ago, something like that, with Papa D, this guy over here. And I went to the pool of Bethesda, and I really encountered the presence of the Lord. This was the year before I started practicing medicine. Well, before I went into grad school, but. And the Lord, when I got on the airplane, he said, "Tiffany, you need to look up, what does Bethesda mean? Because that's the place where your life is changed forever. And that's the name of your home. Your home will be called Bethesda." And so I looked it up. Bethesda means house of mercy. Now, Bethesda is the place where the lame man was healed by Jesus. It's where the famous words that Jesus said to him, "Pick up your mat and walk." Which I love that picture of this co-laboring, that Jesus is like, pick up your mat, AKA like clean up your mess. Like let's do this together. And because of that, we have signs all over our house that label it Bethesda as like a reminder that this is a house of mercy. So if you ever come to my house, good news, like no matter if you break a plate or you burn the house down, I won't be mad because it's a house of mercy, and I will give you mercy to whatever extent that you need. But I love this definition of mercy. It's the compassionate, voluntary decision to withhold deserved punishment, judgment, or wrath, and instead offer forgiveness, grace, and loving kindness. Now think about that bleeding woman. She was in a state where she was feeling judgment and even wrath from society. And Jesus said, I'm going to show you my loving kindness. Another phrase that I love for this is that mercy is love's second name. Mercy is love in action. And mercy is a fundamental attribute of God's character. Lamentations 3:22-23. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions, or his mercies in other translations, never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The next one is Ephesians 2:4-5. I love this. But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, rich. This means that there's no bleeding that you could possibly have done for too long or lost too much blood that he doesn't have mercy for. There's no mistake that you've ever done that he doesn't have this voluntary decision to withhold deserved punishment and wrath, and instead offer forgiveness, grace, and loving kindness. So, today we're going to talk about the healing modality of mercy in your mind. Because a lot of us can be our own worst enemy, right? Maybe you could give someone else mercy, but for yourself, like you got high expectations for yourself. And I want to tell you, you can have high expectations for yourself simultaneously as having mercy for yourself. Okay. So, Romans 12:2 talks about, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Okay, transformed. Who wants to be transformed? Okay, yes, and amen. We just got the equation here. Renewing of your mind. Now, like that poem I read us at the beginning that says, earth is crammed with heaven and every common bush of fire with God, but only he who sees takes off his shoes. What are you seeing in your mind? Because the brain learns best through repetition. So what are you teaching your brain in your repetitious thoughts? Right? Are you saying, oh, I'm broken. I can't handle this. I can't handle anything. Or like, I always lose my keys. I'm such a moron. What are we saying repetitiously to ourselves? Sometimes if one of my daughters says something about herself like out loud that isn't loving kindness, I will say to her, don't talk about my daughter like that. And it's funny, she'll always like, oh, Mom. I'm like, no, that's my daughter. I won't let anyone talk about my daughter like that, even you. And that's the Lord's heart for you. You heard Jesus? He met that woman, and with 5 seconds, he's calling her my daughter, my son. He wants to say to you, don't talk about my son like that. Don't talk about my daughter like that. Ephesians 4:23, be renewed in the spirit of your minds. Isaiah 55:8-9 talks about his thoughts are higher and greater than our thoughts. And we have access to that. The Lord is not like, my thoughts are greater than yours, and you can't have them, right? He's like, come on up here with me. Let me take you to the next glory. So, back to our science and faith coin. One thing I want to share, which I think is a very interesting fact. So your body, every second, this is going to blow your mind if you really lean into this. Every second, 31.8 million cells are made in your body. Every second. And the quality of those cells is influenced by your mind. So right now, there's actually oncology research going on of how mind management is affecting oncology treatment. Oncology treatment is cancer treatment. So oncology research is actually focusing on that mind management changes the outcome of these cancer patients. Okay, inflammation. Anybody ever had inflammation in their body? Okay, so inflammation is actually the source of most diseases. And inflammation itself, it is a blessing. It was designed to help us. So for instance, if someone comes up here and stabs my arm, I will pray for you and have mercy for you. And God designed my body to then awaken the inflammatory cascade to tell all these cells, Mayday, Mayday, she's bleeding. Send all of the clotting cells over there. Create a clot so she doesn't bleed out, right? That's life-saving. God designed your body to be self-healing, right? So acute inflammation is a blessing. The issue is when it becomes chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is labeled a silent fire. It is linked to more than 50% of all deaths, and it is the root cause of most heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's. The list goes on. And what is chronic inflammation? Well, I started this morning with heart math and the concept of turning off your sympathetic system, right? And awakening your parasympathetic system. Because chronic inflammation is usually from having high cortisol and you're living out of your fight and flight. You're living in stress, right? And so when you're living in stress, you are living in the chronic inflammation, and that then affects those 31.8 million cells that are made every single second. And so how do you fix, like, I can't stop this fight or flight? Well, we talked about what's the key of how we're transformed? We're transformed by the renewing of our minds. So when I talked about the pool of Bethesda and Jesus saying to him, pick up your mat and walk, today I'm going to say, clean up your mental mess and walk. We're going to pick up our mat that you kind of made up in that business. We're going to roll it up and we're going to trash it. And I'm going to give you some pointers and then I'll walk you through things. Talking about thought patterns. If you are in a hard season, and if you're not in a hard season right now, that's wonderful, but I can give you a guarantee that one will be coming, right? I don't know the time, but I can guarantee between now until your deathbed, you will have a hard season. And I want you to imprint this so that you're ready. That the next time that you feel like you're in the valley of the shadow of death, you're going to say to yourself, I'm going through the valley, but I'm not staying in it. Okay? And we don't need to be scared of the valleys. The valleys take us somewhere, right? You go through a valley to get to the next location. And changing your thought from like, oh, I'm in the valley and my life's falling apart and it's so terrible, what can I do? There's nothing I can do. To someone asks me, how are you? I'm like, well, I'm going through the valley, but I'm not staying in it. That type of mind management, renewing of the mind is going to transform me, body, soul, and spirit, because my thoughts, what I tell myself, my words of what I tell you affect those 31.8 million cells that are being formed. And I want to speak over those cells. I want to speak life over those cells. Proverbs 17:22. I love this one. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Now, the cheerful heart, is it a good medicine for somebody else? Is it a good medicine for you? Who's it for? Is it for you or is it for them? It's for both. Now, how about this? The crushed spirit dries up bones. Have you ever been around somebody and you get in your car and you're like, my bones feel so dry. I don't know if I can ever get together with them again. Yeah. Have you ever felt that? Yeah. Woo! Man! And now there's a time that when I'm with it, there's no shame and condemnation. If you come to my house and you're drying up my bones, I'm going to give you mercy, but I'm going to tell you, hey, is something going on? Because my bones are dry. No, just kidding. But when we're around someone and your bones are getting dried up, that needs to be an alert to you. Oh, this person needs some more Jesus. Something's going on with them. That it actually should increase the mercy and love that you have for this person. You say, this person needs some loving kindness. This person needs some hope. I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to use that as a awareness, like a self-awareness, only it's an atmosphere awareness, right? I'm walking into the room. I see what you're throwing down, right? And that's something that we all, every time we get out of bed and we leave the house, how are you showing up? Are you showing up with a cheerful heart? Or are you going to be the Eeyore that's drying up my bones? Because I'm going to be straight up, y'all. Okay, if you dry up my bones, I'm going to be like, yo, I'm going to stab you in the front. What's up? But we can go back to the story that we all know, that we got to take the plank out of our eye before I get the speck out of you. Do not talk to the bone dryer Okay, until your heart is cheerful. And how do you cultivate that cheerful heart? Renewing your mind. And what's a renewing step that we could start with? How about some gratitude? Right? How about we become aware that earth is crammed with heaven? Who woke up today and thanked God for something? Okay, good job, Antiochians. I'm proud of you. You're learning something here. Every time you do that, you're going to get a little bit more cheery. That's how you download the joy of the Lord. Okay, so here's our 3 mercy tools that we're going to use today. The first one is that first and foremost, you need to give yourself mercy. I'm able to have a house of mercy and give you mercy when you cut me because I give myself mercy. That Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. I got to learn how to love myself so I can love you well. And Tiffany loves Tiffany. Tiffany loves her. Do you love you? Because Jesus loves you. If Jesus loves you, aren't you worth loving? And who here wants to be a world changer? I like that, like, maybe. I don't know. I'm still praying about it. I'll get back to you. If you want to change the world, first you got to change the world in here. This is your forever home. You're trapped in here, y'all. You got to learn to love it in here. And if you don't love it in here, you don't love this, then let Jesus show you what he loves about it. And yeah, Tiffany learned to love Tiffany because I'd say, Jesus, what do you love about me? Jesus, what's precious about me in your eyes? Okay, mercy tool number 2. Bitterness and unforgiveness need to move out. Pack it up in a box, y'all. If not, it's going to just ruin you. It's toxic. I remember when Pastor Brad taught me this. Unforgiveness is toxic to me, not to the person that hurt me. And I think a lot of times I was like, I'm going to take revenge. I'm not going to forgive him. I'm like, all I'm doing is hurting them. What? They're living their life doing their thing. What's my unforgiveness doing for them? Nothing. Right? It's toxic to me. Okay, and number 3, back to my quality questions. You need to start asking yourself a better question. Okay? Why questions come from a victim mentality. The pool of Bethesda, the man who was wanting healing, Jesus was like, do you want to be well? He's like, no one's got me off my mat. No one's put me in the water. Right? Have you ever heard like, why are terrible things always happening to me? Why do I have to struggle with this? Now, here's the thing. A lot of us have horrible stories. I am not minimalizing your pain. Okay? I mean, look at the Old Testament. I mean, the whole Testament is filled with a lot of nasty, a lot of pain, a lot of murder. And we could ask ourselves, and we could sit in a pool of self-pity, why? Why do I have to go through this? Or we could change the question, and we could ask a what or how question, which a what or how question births a victor mindset. And we as Christians partner with the fact that Jesus conquered sin, that Jesus is victorious, and we are grafted into his family and thus grafted into his victory. And so let's talk about a what or how question. I'm going to just try to give a tangible example from my current life. January 3rd, I had a poop flood in my house. Yep, poop floating down the hallway, y'all. Anybody else have that good of a New Year's? New Year's Day, you're like, it's going to be a great year. God's got great things for us. 2 days later, January 3rd, great things floating down the hallway. Now, I could, and I was tempted to be like, God, why? Like, can't I just enjoy my January? Can't I have that fresh newness of a new year? Why do I have to have poop floating down the hallway? Or I can ask the question, how am I going to fix this? What am I going to do? Or how would you like me to process this, Lord? Because soon after, we had to pack up out of our house and move to the Airbnb that I live in. And it's been a blessed disruption. Because my whole family, we've lived in that house for 15 years? 15 years, okay. And Ben will always make the announcement, I'm going to die here. I'm dying in this house. So yeah, we're pretty connected to Bethesda, right? She's been good to us. She's got a lot of mercy there. She's got a lot of good memories. And so we've had to uproot and move down the street. And it has been so awakening to my soul. And it has been medicinal that everything I'm used to has been ripped out of me. I can't even access my things. My things are in a storage unit. I don't know where on earth they are. I haven't packed them or touched them. I have no sense of control. People are like, when are you going to move in? I have no idea. Where's this? I have no idea. Right? I am just a person. And sometimes I feel a little homeless, like I'm just a traveling Jesus lover. And the Lord is doing so much in my soul. But I could have sat and been like, why, Lord? It was going to be a good year. Why did this have to happen to me? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? And it would have stolen what the Lord is doing and teaching me and molding me and forming me. So we're going to do a little activity where we're going to ask Jesus some questions. Who knows that there's life and death in the tongue? That with your words you can bless or you can curse. So we know that when we think of like the tongue outwardly, but it's right here too, right? There's life and death right in here. Are you killing yourself with your words? Are you killing others with your words? We know the story when Jesus says, if you look at a woman with lust, it's as if you commit adultery, right? Or if you hate a brother, it's as if you killed him. It's because the power is in the words. And the power is in the words. Evidence of that, how did God create the earth? With his words. He created with his words. And so what are you creating with your words? Because every thought you have, did you know it actually has a location in your brain? And you're creating matter. Matter like cells, think or dendrites. You're creating matter with your thoughts. So the matter you create matters. So I want to use my words to speak blessing over you. Good news, I plan to not curse you today. Okay? Just want to let you know that. I was thinking like, which one, blessing or cursing? Like, which one should it be? And I prayed and, the Lord led me. And I want to bless you with this. Healing is the children's bread. Healing is the children's bread. Are you a child of God? Because he wants to feed you. Are you hungry? Therefore, I taste of the goodness of God, and I am healed. Healing is the children's bread. Therefore, I taste of the goodness of God, and I am healed.
Thanks for listening. To get connected, you can find us online at iamantioch.com or join us Sunday morning in Riverside, California.